In the world of finance, value is usually digital, invisible. But for Arthur Anders, value had weight, specifically 3.1 gram of solid copper. For 45 years, Anders didn't just collect loose change. He engaged in a daily ritual of accumulation that baffled his family and tested the limits of his home's structural integrity. But when he finally wheeled 15 massive water jugs into a bank of Ruston, Louisiana, he wasn't just depositing a pocket change. He was depositing a half of a century of American history, 1 cent at a time. And the final count would prove the patience, compounding over decades, pay dividends no bank can calculate.
October, Ruston, Louisiana, a quiet Tuesday morning. At Origin Bank is interrupted by the sound of failing plastic wheels. Arthur Enders, a 73-year-old school board member, enters the lobby. He is not carrying a briefcase. He is pushing a customized dolly stacked with 5-gallon polycarbonate water jugs. Inside the jugs, pennies, hundreds of thousands of them. The visual is so jarring that bank operations essentially cease. Vice President Jenny Cole is the first to intercept him. In the banking world, cash deposits are routine. But this is a logistical crisis. Anders is calm. He informs the staff that he is finally ready to liquidate a collection 4.5 decades in the making. He estimates the count at 500,000 units. The staff is skeptical. The sheer volume of copper implies a weight approaching 2,800 pounds, more than a compact car. The bank's automated counters are designed for pocket change, not an industrial-scale hoard, but Anders is adamant. He isn't leaving. The vault is open. The count begins. To understand the hoard, we must understand the psychology of the hoarder. For Arthur Anders, this began in the late 1960s. It wasn't about greed. It was a theological exercise. Every time he spotted a coin on the pavement, Anders viewed it as a divine signal, a reminder to offer a prayer of gratitude. "I've had thousands of coins to expose to me over the years," Anders later explained, each one a small moment of thanks. If a coin was tails up, he flipped it for the next person. If it was heads up, he claimed it. He refused to spend them. To spend a penny was to break the chain of gratitude. The ritual was sacred. But devotion has a footprint. As the decades passed, the collection expanded beyond control. It moved from jars to buckets, and finally to the 15 massive water jugs that began to dominate the family garage. His wife, Martha, argued for liquidation. She saw a fire hazard and a floor buckling under the weight. He saw a legacy, still incomplete. Home insurance policies eventually refused to cover the cash hoard. The value of the copper became a liability. Anders was sitting on a small fortune, but it was trapped in plastic, until now. Back at Origin Bank, the atmosphere shifts from skepticism to labor. The jugs are too heavy to pour, the coins too tightly packed to flow freely. The staff breaks them open carefully, releasing the contents onto sorting trays. The process is grueling. The bank's high-speed sorters jam repeatedly. These aren't fresh mint coins. They are dirty, bent, and covered in decades of oxidation and grime. The tellers are forced to intervene manually, feeding coins in small batches. As the hours stretch on, the staff begins to notice something unexpected. They aren't just counting money. They are sorting through American history. Lincoln wheat pennies from the 1940s and 1950s emerge from the pile, coins that haven't been minted in over 60 years. Steel pennies from 1943, minted during the war when copper was needed for ammunition. Surface 2, lighter than the rest, magnetic and unmistakably different. Each coin carries a timestamp. A penny from 1952 might have been dropped in a drugstore parking lot. A 1967 cent could have rolled under bleachers at a high school football game. Anders didn't just collect currency. He collected 45 years of lost moments. 5 hours in, the count passes 300,000. The bank staff, initially skeptical, begins to realize that Anders wasn't exaggerating. If anything, he may have underestimated. Anders watches the machine's digital display tick upward. He's waited 45 years for this number. He can wait a few more hours. The reject pile grows alongside the count. Coins too old, too worn, or too unusual for the machine to process. These require manual verification. A teller separates the wheat pennies, coins that carry a modest premium among collectors. They won't make Anders rich, but they add texture to the total. By the end of the second day, the rhythm has become almost meditative. Pour, sort, count, repeat. The staff has processed more pennies in 48 hours than most people will touch in a lifetime. And then silence. The machine stops. The count is complete. 513,000, 614 pennies, total face value, $5,136.14. For 45 years of daily collection, the math works out to roughly 31 pennies per day. Less than a third of a dollar, invisible in the short term, undeniable over a lifetime. Anders wastes no time allocating the funds. An outstanding dental bill, settled immediately. A long-promised vacation from Martha to the Gulf Coast, finally booked. And the remainder? Tithe to his church, the final act of the gratitude ritual that started 45 years ago with a single prayer over a single penny. Otha Anders walked into Origin Bank with a burden he had carried for nearly half a century, 1.4 tons of copper, zinc, and accumulated faith. He walked out with a lighter step and a receipt that proved something simple but profound.
Value isn't always about the currency you hold. Sometimes it's about the discipline to hold it long enough for the word to catch up. Otha Anders collected an average of 31 pennies per day for 45 years. He never spent a single one. So, what are you stepping over the sidewalk today?